Hi, everybody. This is Pastor Brooke, and I'm glad you're joining me for day 2 of our learning to listen for God and listen for the sacred in our lives. I hope you've been working on your breathing, and I just want to talk a little bit today. We won't practice, but I hope you are practicing doing this and paying attention to it. That's really what we're trying to do, too, is pay attention to our breath. And a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about that gap, which I think is so important, the gap between when we're exhaling and inhaling, that little time there, and then the little time when we're inhaling and exhaling, those two spots where you kind of stop and do nothing for a little bit. And I don't really necessarily want you to make that gap longer. I just want you to pay attention to it. There's something about doing the in-between that's so important in this whole listening exercise. And a couple of quotes I'd like to, or moments I'd like to share with you. One is Martin Buber, who's a theologian, a Jewish theologian that I just love to listen to and to read. And he talks about, if God is love, then God is that space in between two loving people. It's that energy between the two. And there is a great synergy, right? An energy about love. It builds, it grows. And so in this listening time, that's one of the things we're listening for. In the in-between the exhaling and the inhaling, we're listening for that energy right there. And it's a quiet thing. It's such a quiet thing and a silent thing. So do that. And then the other one is Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Successful People, talks about the difference between an adult and a child, or a selfish adult and a loving adult. And that is that a child doesn't have any gap between their emotions and their response to that emotion. If somebody attacks them, they come right back at them. If they're angry, they zoom right to an angry word without any sort of space of thinking and waiting and pondering our response. And so he says that in order to be a loving adult, a successful adult, we need to lengthen that gap between what's happening to us and how we respond to it. And I think that's one of the things that listening prayer does so well, is when we learn to listen, we make a greater gap between that. And that's one of the purposes of all this. Now, again, just in your practice, I want to just talk a little bit more about the process of breathing. So when you're breathing in, try to breathe in through your nose. Now, maybe you're not able to do that because you're not feeling well or whatever. And while you're breathing in, focus that kind of energy right at the tip of your nose if you can. It's kind of a way of concentrating. And then when you're blowing out, I just feel like you're just releasing. So whoosh, I almost have in my head this sound of whoosh. So breathing in, and then whoosh. So try that, work on it, work on that gap. I'm not talking about lengthening it like you're holding your breath, more just paying attention to that little magic in between. All right. Hope you have a good day. Thank you for listening.